Amen. Today we come to our reading for today, which is from Colossians 3:18 through 21. And as we come to this reading, Paul's been talking very much about how we are to live, act towards one another, not act towards one another, being in the word, being in hymns, being in songs, being where the Lord has brought to us. Now we get to what might be called the table of duties. Now, a table of duty is put together basically where you are. This is what you are to do. Noting that a table of duty, what are the actions that is my responsibility, do change throughout my life. I begin as a child. I have certain duties as a child. Then I become a single adult. I become a married adult. I become a grandfather, a great grandfather. Different responsibilities are inherent depending on where I am in the course of life. Now, where I am, I might not want to do it all. But God puts me in certain places at certain times and calls us to certain areas, certain jobs, certain work, certain parts of our life, certain relationships. And he says, where you are at, you go forward in doing this action. And this might not be exactly what you want, but the Lord knows what is best. And it's not always what's best for my feelings, but best for his plan of creation. Now, getting to this is where we get to that word that people oftentimes get upset with or want to make changes to the marriage liturgy. Wives, submit to your husbands as is fitting to the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. Now, of those, it's that one first word that really becomes a big sticky wicket at times. And I just like to read from this commentary that says it quite well. Because the crux for the correct interpretation of this section is the meaning of the imperative, upa ta sesto, submit, whose translation in English, regardless of how it's rendered, is subject to misunderstanding. The place of this exhortation in the letter, in the midst of all these other exhortations to action, that is a natural consequence of and response to undeserved redemption by God. All of these of our actions and our duties as life come and flow from the redemption Christ has won for us. Points to being subject as a condition that is not accomplished by personal initiative alone, but bestowed on or worked in Christians through saving faith. So, how husbands and wives act and live to one another. Remember, Paul says in another letter, being submissive to one another. So, very much in each individual circumstance, as Paul is writing, he is writing very intentionally for that specific case in this instance. And the specific case, what sins, what issues are they having there? So, in one case, be submissive to one another. Here you have other issues that are going on within the congregation. And so, what is the problems going on right here at this congregation right now? Husbands are willing to be submissive, evidently, but wives are not. On the other hand, husbands seem to be not loving their wives and are harsh with them, whereas the wives are not in the congregation here. So he's talking to this specific instance of what's going on. Now, the subjection of wife to husband is often misunderstood as being demeaning, indicating that one who is subject to another is inferior to the other. While such an implication is applicable in some uses, it is not inherent in the verb itself. Jesus, using the same verb, was subject to Mary and Joseph. And Paul himself writes that the eschaton of the risen and exalted Christ will subject himself to the Father. As God incarnate, Christ was in no way inferior to Mary and Joseph. In other words, the same word is used for Jesus Christ, Son of Man, Son of God in this world, and how he was to live towards Mary and Joseph as well. Now, knowing that the same word is used there and the same word is used here gives us a good understanding of what Paul is really getting to. Wherever we find ourselves, serve the Lord. And then he wraps up, children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not provoke your children, lest they become discouraged. Wherever God puts us, wherever God leads us in work, in family, in relationships, in church, in life together, Paul's exhorting us to be where we are serving the Lord. And whatever